Not trickery
Right.
on stage. No, no. In fact, I wrote my first book quite a long time ago, back in 2005, and it was called Inner Journeys, and it's really a sort of semi-autobiographical book. I
Hmm.
can't pronounce the word autobiography because growing up, I grew up in a normal family in Yorkshire, but strange things happened to me when I was a child. One of my first memories is being frightened in my bedroom because a little blue man jumped out of the mirror and shot me with a false gun, laughed and jumped out the window. And you would think that this was just the imaginings of a small child, except that my father heard the gunshot and ran up the stairs and saw the little blue man jumping out the window as well. And I mean, it sounds bizarre, but it's the absolute truth. And from that point forward, all kinds of weird and strange things happened to me. Things would move around, doors would open by themselves, strange scratching sounds. There was one night when I came in from the pub. I used to drink a few more beers than probably I should if I was staying at the house, my parents' house, because quite frankly it was uncomfortable for me.
Sure.
And there was one evening when I was quite drunk, and I knew I'd locked the front door, but as I got into bed, I heard the front door open, I heard the sighs and the footsteps coming up the stairs, and then the door began to open, and of course I reacted as you might expect. I screamed blue murder. And my father was right there because once again he had also heard these strange noises. So, you know, my early adult life, I became a sleeper like everybody else. I started to focus on getting my degree, getting a job, having a career, growing a family, all of these kinds of things. But from time to time, I'd be drawn back to thinking about what these experiences were, why I see auras around people sometimes, and the nature of reality. Another thing that I used to do as a kid, a very small boy, is I used to actually believe that I really didn't exist as a boy. I was sat somewhere in a box, attached to a machine. I could look through some things and see. I could sense, but I was basically living some kind of sort of game that I really wasn't here. I was somewhere else, and this was some kind of game. Well, this was before computers and the Matrix and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
But really, that's what I was experiencing as a small child. That really, I was living in a computer program or the Matrix or whatever, and I was in a little box, and there was rows and rows of these little boxes with all of us sort of exploring this alternate reality. So I had this fascination, I had this set of experiences. I had a father whose mother had been a medium, and he'd had some experiences as a result of this. And, periodically I would go back to it, I would read books. And, when you get to, I got to about 40-ish, and I started to look around, my kids were growing up, I started to look around for some way to really make sense of all of this, to try to understand what it was, to try to learn a little bit about alternate realities and magic. As you do, I stumbled around. I found an organization called AMORC that you might be familiar with, a Rosicrucian organization, but it really wasn't quite what I was looking for. But through that, I got connected to a couple of people by email, and one of them recommended a school in the UK called the Servants of the Light. And I applied to the Servants of the Light, and they do a 5-year, or at that time, they did a 5-year, what's called a first degree course of basically daily meditation, magical practice, all of that kind of thing. It's hermetic, it's Kabbalistic, it's a correspondence course. It took me about 5.5 years to get through, and it just basically turned the universe upside down for me. And this is what the book Inner Journeys became. It became a sort of, here's how my life started, here's how I was ruled by fear, but always interested and fascinated by the so-called occult. I stumble upon this school, I do this course, and all of a sudden I begin to understand that, reality is something that we create. And we are all potential magicians, just that the vast majority of us never realize this and never fulfill our potential as magicians.
So do you think that we can actually alter space and time, and that we can actually produce matter out of thin air?
You know, that's a really interesting question. The initial reaction would be, yes, I do believe in physical magic. And as you know, one of the magicians that I really have read and try to understand is a Czech magician called Franz Barton, who was persecuted by both the Nazis and the communists, and actually died in Brno prison because the communists didn't like his magic. But he was, purported to be able to control the weather and create fire from nothing and this kind of thing. I've never actually seen that done. I cannot do it myself, but I do believe it's possible. I think it's possible if you can imagine to the point where you can imagine reality. Gary, and this is where, that concept of faith moves mountains. If you can imagine, if you have the faith and the imaginative faculty to make a mountain move, then you will move it.
So if we create our own reality and we go through our lives creating reality as it goes along, how does the creation of our reality affect those who are in our reality when it comes to them creating their own reality?
It's a great question, isn't it? And in fact, there's another wrinkle on this as well, which is you mentioned time and space, and what is time and what is space? I've come to believe, and I think that it's not just me that believes this, but if you look at Hermetics and if you look at the Three Initiates, which is a book in which it's stated the universe is mental, then space and time are simply constructs of the human mind, because without space and time, we would be eternally still. There would be no movement. There would be nothing to experience. So we have to have space and time in which to move through life. So then, to revisit the question you asked before this one, do we really create our own reality? Well, could it be that essentially our life is like an LP, the old-fashioned LP turning around on the turntable, where we believe that we're living a life that starts at one place and ends in another.
Right.
But in reality, we're just experiencing something that already was there.
Gary, stand by. I've got to take my news break at the bottom of the hour. Interesting topic with a very interesting gentleman. His name is Gary M Vasey. www.garymvasey.com. And Gary and I return on the other side of this news break here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. My name is Rob McConnell, and I would like to tell you about a very special lady that I have the pleasure of knowing, and that's Miss Sylvia Anthony. Sylvia Anthony believes the golden years are a time to gear up and get busy, not relax and take it easy. She has faced many hardships in her 84 years, but they have made her stronger and more determined. As founder and president of Sylvia's Haven, a shelter for women and their children near Boston, Sylvia has helped transform over 1,086 lives in the past 27 years, not only with housing, but also providing direction as to where they can go to develop the earning skills they want and need to live free from difficult domestic situations. Sylvia's Haven is everything to Sylvia Anthony, even calling it her magnificent obsession. Women who qualify for the program at Sylvia's Haven receive assistance via guidance counselors to find the appropriate job opportunity. Women and their children may remain at the housing for up to 2 years. At the end of this time, or sooner, a woman who is successfully employed and has an apartment or home may leave Sylvia's Haven to begin a new and independent life. Now this is where you come in to help make Sylvia's dream into a reality. Sylvia's dream is to have a Sylvia's Haven in every state to help as many women and their children as she can, and to help this dream come true. A crowdfunding site has been established which can be accessed at www.sylviasdream.org. Now that's www.sylviasdream.org. With your financial help and support, Sylvia Anthony will continue to help those in their time of need, not only in the Boston area, but with her dream of having a Sylvia's Haven in every state of the United States. Your help is needed to make Sylvia's dream come true. Please visit and give at www.sylviasdream.org. Once again, www.sylviasdream.org. And remember, the only difference between a dream and reality is just doing it. We need your help to make Sylvia's dream come true. Visit www.sylviasdream.org. Once again, www.sylviasdream.org. For the X Zone Radio TV show and the X Chronicles newspaper, I am Rob McConnell.
The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary M. Vasey is my guest, www.garymvasey.com. So when we're looking at the realities that each one of us create, does that mean those outside of our reality aren't there, that they're non-existent? How do we rationalize the intermingling of everyone's reality? Is it like throwing a couple of pebbles into the pond and watching those circles intermingle?
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy, ripples. Because when I meditate on this sort of topic and try to answer the question which you're asking, which is very legitimate but very difficult, a very difficult question to answer, I do sometimes think that we create ripples. We create these ripples, this disturbance, and some of us are better at doing that than others. And so then you get the interference patterns, and you kind of get this constructive chaos of us all trying to create realities and versions of realities, and we get this interaction between us, and that's the experience. That's the experience that we crave. That's why we're here, is to experience that experience, if you see what I'm trying to say. And I think, the book, The Last Observer, although it's a novel, it follows on from two books, Inner Journeys and The Mystical Hexagram, which are both very, very much about magic and the practice of magic and the use of symbols like the hexagram to unlock Kabbalah and alchemy, etc., etc. And much like Dion Fortune did, I wanted, although I'm no Dion Fortune, I hasten to add, I wanted to try to take the concept of a novel and put into that novel a lot of magical theory and magical knowledge. So if you actually take The Last Observer and read it, not only is it, I think, a fairly quick and exciting sort of story from beginning to end, but there's actually a lot of real magic and real magical practice in that book, explained in a way that you can only do when you're in a fictional context as opposed to trying to write a textbook.
This is a two-part question, Gary. Number one, why did magic seem to die off in the earlier ages, and why is it coming back?
Well, I don't think magic ever died off. I think magic was always, became the preserve of the chosen few. And I think part of the reason for that